Hey everybody, welcome back to the show. Today we're looking at our top 5 Marvel movies.
Yep.
And I got my Thanos fist that you may have seen on the last one. I'm going to gain the power here. Alright, so
Okay. Oh,
it does have a nice
made me
little
nervous.
soft tip though, so in case you're punching your people.
At least you can't open your hand to snap your fingers. So
I know.
think
Yeah, it's
the universe is safe.
It's pretty
so,
fake. So
yeah.
it's got like a little interior thing. You probably can't even see it, but you kind of hold it and you hold it. I mean, you want to talk about chintzy? I mean, just real quick. I went to the store just to try and find some props or whatever. This was one of the best props they had, and that's not saying a whole lot. I mean, look, only the center stone actually even lights up. Like, you see? And it makes. I mean, I guess that's cool. You tell me you couldn't add a couple of LEDs for these lights. I mean, I feel sorry for kids these days. I mean, really, what is the point? I mean, I couldn't even find a good Captain Shield just hanging around in a Walmart or Target or whatever. So, you know what? F you, Walmart and Target.
And Target.
So here. But anyways, we're back here to talk. We're talking top 5 Marvel movies. So we're going to get straight into it. We're going to start from our lowest all the way to the top. So go ahead, Dustin. Give us your 5.
Number 5 for me was Guardians of the Galaxy, the first one. And I'll just start off by saying this was a really tough list to make because
it was. There's so many.
So many good movies that were so close for me. But Guardians, I love the movie. It was a total surprise to me because I knew nothing about these characters whenever the movie came out. Like a lot of people, I think.
Sure.
I think it was a pretty obscure comic book. But I mean...
But if you love comedy...
Oh, jeez.
I mean...
Chris Pratt was still like... was still coming into his own.
I don't think Jurassic World was coming up around that time.
Yeah,
as well.
Lego Movie was was out, and that was the big one, obviously. So
he had some other smaller roles, like in Wanted, and which that wasn't near his breakouts. But
and then Parks and Rec. But
Parks and Rec, that's a big piece.
This was his first, I would say his first big breakout role. Lego Movie was great.
Yeah, it was awesome.
But he was also just voicing that one, so
true.
I think it means a little bit more to get your face
yeah,
on the screen.
he is a really likable actor, and he brings a lot. He
got shredded for the movie too. So
yeah.
But just a lot of comedy. I mean, everybody works so well together.
The visuals were good. The storyline interesting.
You got to see Thanos, and you got to learn more about kind of that universe and backstory, which ultimately played into Infinity War.
If only we knew really what it was going to mean in the end.
Right. So yeah, number 5 for me was Guardians. Great movie.
Okay. Guardians is also on my list too. We'll skip over it quickly as we go up to it. It's a little higher up on my list, but either way, I had Civil War as my number 5. Civil War I thought was interesting just because. You had that conflict between Stark and Captain America, and it really brought that sense of seriousness, which, you know, I hate to lead towards the dark movies and so forth. Like, I love Nolan's Batman movies. I mean, I think even compared to these, they still sit up on a higher tier than most of all these movies. But you don't want too much dark, because sometimes it's too much, and it wouldn't have worked like in Guardians. It just wouldn't have made sense.
Right.
And in Civil War, you've got to know these characters so well, and you want to see them whoop on each other, but maybe not too bad. But I'm telling you, and I think you remember too, when we were talking about the preview for Civil War when it came out, and it showed that scene of Bucky and Captain nailing Iron Man back and forth and whatever, and it was just like intense. And I gotta just say, that movie in general gave just some really cool visuals, some conflict. You found out a little bit more story behind Stark and his parents. It just good overall, so pretty neat. I don't think Civil made your list.
It didn't make my list. I love the movie.
Yeah.
I
Again,
think that,
so many.
Honestly, I think one of the main parts of the movie I didn't like as much was the big fight scene at the airport. And I know that's.
Do you think it was too?
I think it's just too much and too theatrical
it was
for me.
Ant-Man rolling in there.
It was definitely humorous, and it was kind of cool to see. But I much preferred the fight at the end with Cap. Bucky and Tony, obviously, that was so intense.
I'm so glad it wasn't like flip-flop, because it would have gave the movie a whole different tone. Tone is so important in movies, especially these Marvel ones, and the writers do a pretty good job.
Good film.
All right, right on.
But it didn't make my list.
Number 4.
Number 4 for me was Black Panther, and I know this is probably higher on other people's. We're aligned on this one, so number 4. I think a lot of people put this one up there probably a little bit higher.
Yeah. Well, it doesn't make $1 billion just like that for nothing, right?
And it was a fantastic movie. Michael B. Jordan was pretty fantastic.
And they gave him some. In fact, I think I heard finally, and I think we can both agree, like one of the better villains that Marvel's had. Yeah. They gave him some substance, kind of like they did Thanos.
Yeah, absolutely. Right? But I feel like maybe kind of as the movie came to like its conclusion and it was starting to end, I just feel like he kind of lost a little bit of himself, like Michael B. Jordan's character.
Oh, you think?
He wasn't as imposing anymore, and like kind of the reasons that he came up and the reasons for him kind of taking over and doing what he was doing, it just kind of got lost in the end for me a little bit. But I mean,
but overall, I mean, just seeing their technology and we saw a piece of that right in Winter Soldier.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, just seeing what he could do, what Black Panther could do. So
fantastic movie, number 4. So yeah, it just goes to show you that I loved Black Panther, and there are still 3 above it on the list. So.
Yeah, that's saying a lot.
Yeah.
Well, let's move into number 3 then.
Yep.
So mine, well, I'll just hit on real quick.
What was yours?
It was Guardians, and we don't need to rehash. Like you said, it was just a solid, fun movie, I think, for all, and even so much that I think it could be a family sort. Like, I feel like I would let Mason maybe watch that one faster. Except I know Quill has a tendency, I think, to sometimes maybe curse a little bit here and there, which is nothing too harsh. But when you're talking a 6 and 4-year-old. I think there's a cap of what you're willing to let them see. My buddy has let his son see all the movies. Yeah. And right or wrong, I don't know. I just think maybe I might wait just a little longer.
Yeah, right on the edge there.
But that's just me. Yeah. But let's go into your number 3.
Number 3 for me was Iron Man, the original, the one that started it all.
I know, isn't that crazy?
Jeez,
like,
10 years ago.
10 years ago. Yeah. So the visuals were awesome.
Yep.
You had big ego character, right? Yep. Which Downey plays perfectly, which makes you wonder how much of a jerk he really is in real life.
Yeah, and man, there's no one else that could have done this part better than him. And I know I've read a lot that Tom Cruise was offered the part, he turned it down, and Robert Downey Jr. got it. Which I love Tom Cruise.
I like Tom Cruise. I don't see Tom. I don't see him
being Iron Man. I don't see him being Tony Stark.
His
Robert
Downey
Jr. Just nails the role
every time.
And so Jon Favreau directed that one.
I know, right?
And he was in the movie as Happy. So I didn't know much about him at the time, but man, he's a good director.
Yeah, he is.
The movie was great.
He even produced Infinity War. Well, he's produced I think a lot.
He's produced a lot.
And I think all that means is you toss money towards it and you're able to give a few ideas, right? But clearly the man is.
Oh man, yeah.
I mean. And by the way, and it's funny because he's kind of more of a comedian. Like he's come up in a lot of movies. He was in that what's that one when they're on the island with all the couples retreat? And so when I found out this guy, I'm like, whoa, this guy can direct. He can, he has great ideas to come to the table. So
just a great origin story of how Tony kind of realized maybe what he was doing wasn't the best thing, and he developed the conscience, and he developed the suit, and became this other personality of Iron Man.
And eventually working to build.
So good.
I mean, more of it's on Captain, I think, bringing the Avengers together, but still a piece to the puzzle, nonetheless.
It started the universe. So.
And as much as I've said in other reviews and stuff like that, even Iron Man is not my favorite character. He's also extremely needed and very useful. And also, may I just point out that just in the Avengers first one, when he's flying up there, and he gets warped into that, or I don't even think he gets warped in, but he's trying to close it or whatever. I was like, it was kind of an emotional scene because you're just like, man, Tony might get taken out here. So he's really done a great job. You'll love to hate the guy. Mm-hmm. Every time he says something, you're just like, dick, and then you're like, oh, but he's cool. He's a good guy.
So I go number 2 for me was Infinity War. This was a tough one for me. So Infinity War, we just did a review. So check it out if you've seen the movie. We have a non-spoiler review and a spoiler.
Yeah, the non-spoiler one's it's a very bare glimpse at the whole movie in general, but and then we talk a couple things at the very end, which we actually forgot to talk in our actual review, but just a few of the things that foreshadow into the future. But Infinity War did a wonderful job. I mean, you were talking about they're taking 20 plus heroes and smashing them into a movie. I mean, honestly, it would be like a dream to be able to direct or something like that. Just to have the chance to take something on like that. But also, couldn't that
so much pressure?
A nightmare.
Yeah. How do you do that well and make it cohesive? And
luckily they had a script.
The Russo brothers did a good job.
So actually, probably more a nightmare for the writers and the screenplay writers. Yeah. But even the director. Isn't it funny? You see 8 minutes of scrolling, and it comes down to one man. Mm-hmm. Ultimately, directing this whole hodgepodge, and he has people to answer to. It's crazy. Yeah. So the movie, by the way, other fun facts on it. I found out $395 million to produce. Go get this one here. No, that doesn't include what it took to market. Now it's usually it can be anywhere from another 80 to 100 million. I hear just in promotions, right?
And sure.
So guess what? One movie was more expensive to produce than Infinity War.
What's that?
It was the Avengers: Age of Ultron.
Really?
Yeah. $495 million to do Ultron, and that kind of blew my mind. I saw it on IGN the other day.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah, isn't it though?
There was a lot of CGI in Infinity War. I feel like
there was, and so either they're getting just a lot better at it in general, and maybe they can piecing out to different studios and working together in collaboration. Because let's face it, Age of Ultron was a while ago, but all the same, it's not like it was 10 years ago. Yeah. So, but yeah, they said it was almost $100 million more to produce, and then to take it to market, we brought over that cap too. So the fact that this, and I just read that this will be the fastest probably billion movie ever, which, I mean, that's not surprising.
I mean, globally, I think it's already at 800 something million. So,
like I said in the spoiler-free one, so much money.
So much money.
Gosh.
But so good. So worth it.
So good. My number 2 was Winter Soldier. So, Winter Soldier, very cool. You got Captain. He's on this hell race to try and find Bucky, and and trying to understand what has happened to him when he is found. And you got some other cool characters coming in. You got Black Panther kind of makes his way in, and you get some story around that too, right?
Not in Winter Soldier.
Oh wait, or was that Civil War? Oh, that was Civil War. I'm sorry. Apologies. Sorry, but Winter Soldier, just overall, I think. Had a lot of great action in it, and I'm just I'm an action buff. I kind of like just seeing a lot of stuff going down. It had a good storyline too, but
so that was my number 1.
That's right. So because Captain was trying to catch up with him, and
for me it was still early in the universe, and I didn't know a lot about like Marvel. I didn't read the comics. I liked Iron Man. I liked Captain America, the origin movies that had come out. So as Winter Soldier came out, it really focused around Cap, and you had more Sam Jackson in the movie, Black Widow, and that relationship. And then you have this Winter Soldier character that I didn't know who it was. So I'm sure people who knew the comics knew that was Bucky. I didn't know at the time, so I just came in kind of blind, like, oh yeah, this is cool. And then when I realized it was Bucky, and I'm like, oh man, that just totally turned it for me. And I was like, oh, that's crazy.
Captain.
So then you see Cap has this dilemma inside that. That's his best friend in the whole world, and he survived. He thought he was dead, and
keeps trying to bring him back.
Cap was asleep for a while, or frozen, or whatever. But he's, he has this dilemma inside him. Like, He's
trying to turn him back to the other side, but meanwhile, Bucky's trying to kill him at every turn and corner.
And then all of Shield that is supposed to have his back. Cap has to turn his back on him because he knows that Bucky's his friend, and he's going to do what he needs to do to save his friend. And you find out that there's a lot of other manipulation. Robert Redford's character is not a great dude, and then you've got the kind of the spawn or the respawning of Hydra from the first movie. And I think one reason I love this movie so much is I watched Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. at the same time. And it ties in so well with the movie. Like,
that was smart.
Once the movie came out, events started happening in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. that, like, with Hydra and all this other stuff, and there were these big twists in the show. Yeah. So it just all kind of came together for me in such a good way.
Agents is still going. They're about to do another, I think, season,
I actually fell off of the show a little bit. It's kind of out there right now. The first 3 seasons for me were like really solid.
I heard they're going to start tying in with events from Infinity War.
They've done a pretty good job of that, but this tie-in with Winter Soldier was some of the best like TV movie tie-in stuff I've ever seen. It just works so well together, and the whole Hydra aspect of it was so cool. But nice. I love this movie. I love Captain America. I just love like who he is and his beliefs and
so because Winter Soldier was your number 1, right?
One,
So Dustin's 1 is Winter Soldier, and that was a lot of good reasons for it too. I mean, just a fabulous movie. Can't remember how much money it made in the box office, but I know it did. I know it wasn't hurting.
It did fairly well, but this was still early on when the universe was building, so it was before.
Yeah, it's like people have gotten more and more engaged with these movies. They're putting all the bits and pieces and the stories together. So now it's like that Game of Thrones, where like I have to go see it. I have to go see what happens.
Yeah,
right?
It was after the first Avengers, so I think that was kind of that. Once they made Avengers and all the heroes came together, that really kind of solidified the universe, I think, and it started to really build after that.
Sure.
But it did well, but it definitely didn't do
not like these last 2 or 3.
What's been happening lately?
So that was your number 1.
Yeah, your number 1.
And then mine was Infinity War.
Yeah. So we just flip flopped our 1 and 2.
We did, and so we spoke to both of these a little bit. But Infinity War, it's amazing. You toss enough money at something, you would figure it's going to do really, really well. But that doesn't always. The case, it's not always a guarantee, right? Yeah. So. And it's left a lot of things open, and so they were talking about how they weren't going to release the Avengers 4 title because, one, they were afraid it was going to take away from the hype of the movie, which I'm thinking to myself, people are going to go see your movie. You telling me a title is going to be like, oh, I don't want to go see the movie now. Right. I mean, that doesn't make any sense. But clearly it was enough because they said at one point they released another title, and supposedly it had an effect on what they believe were movie sales. So, hey, that's what they said.
Interesting.
But all the same, they did allude to a few things in the end of Infinity War, kind of like a vision being backed up. We had a scene of Shuri kind of doing something and closing it up just before she gets attacked. And so I'm thinking that maybe something happened there. And then also you have Stark being saved by Doctor Strange, right? Because he saw some kind of outcome out of these 14 million outcomes that we talked about in our last review. He saw something that includes probably Tony in the solution. So that makes me think that this is still a part 2 series of a movie, but I mean, there's just a lot of questions though. It's like, how do you undo what's been done, you know, and without getting a whole nother Infinity Gauntlet? I mean, I guess you can go back and see what Dinklage is up to and be like, hey, Dink,
why don't you make me another one?
What up, G? Let's get this going.
Yeah.
So, anyways, so a lot of things coming, but yeah, you know, you could go on a long ways with all these different types of movies, and we could do a top 10, top 15. I mean, there's so many movies, but definitely that's our list here below. So.
Yeah, five was tough. It was tough to knock it down to 5.
Yeah.
And these are all so close for me that it's like millimeters above the other when I start to lay them out.
Yeah, they're all great movies, and just the universe and the writers and what they've done. They've really done a great thing with these movies. So we'd like to see your list too. I know some of you were able to post them in our Star Wars rankings, which that was really tough. We had like 8 or 9 movies, so we kind of this went down. We probably should have almost did a top 3, but all the same, we like to hear what are your top 3 to 5 Marvel movies that you really, really enjoyed. And if you don't agree with our list, which ones don't you agree with, or what do you think went wrong with them? And we'll have some other things coming to you soon. We're thinking about some top 5s for maybe like top 5 war movies and medieval war movies just in general. I was just kind of watching some other ones and got into the show. I was telling Dustin about watching Vikings. I'm a little late with it all, but just getting caught up, it's a lot of fun because you can just watch episode after episode. I mean, I almost prefer to wait until the series is near done, but then you get to miss out on all the fun talk in between, right? Yeah. I mean, if you were to go and watch Game of Thrones right now, Jesus, how could you not have something spoiled, you know, at this point? But there's been so much that's gone down, so. Yeah. So anyways, so thanks for coming out and watching, guys. Make sure to like and subscribe if you were enjoying the video, and I guess we'll catch you next time.
Yeah, see ya.